Recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Philadelphia. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I got a letter, an email from a listener saying, I've sent you emails and I've always wondered, do you read the emails? And of course, I read every single one. And one of the biggest requests that we received was for a functional medicine show in Philadelphia. We have one in other markets across the country, but we didn't have one in Philadelphia. I finally got an opening, and we found one of the top doctors when it comes to functional medicine. Let me welcome our new show, our new expert with Philly Wellness Center, Katie Harris. Good morning, Dr. Harris.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. We're so excited about your show. I know I am probably one of the biggest believers in functional medicine because I've done so many shows now in other parts of the country. And Philadelphia is such a great market for us. First of all, tell us about your practice.
So Philly Wellness Center, it is basically focused on functional and integrative medicine. We tackle hormone issues, weight loss issues, which isn't just about diet and exercise, and then regenerative health issues. So if you have pain or, just any litany list of things, that's what we want to tackle. I want to tackle the things that conventional medicine isn't getting to, and really that longevity aspect of health span.
Hormones are so important, aren't they?
Yeah. That was the hardest part about, starting this show. It's like, there's so many topics to talk about. I'm like, what can we start with?
Well, today, and we always leave it up to you, we're going to be talking about, women's health issues, intimacy, vaginal health after 40, and which is perfect for our audience because we have more of a mature audience, and this is such an important topic for us. First of all, tell people your background.
So I am a nurse practitioner and a PhD, and my background was always in the hospital. I was always in the hospital. I worked neurosurgery, neurocritical care, OR for 25 years, and then when the pandemic hit, I left the hospital. I've been teaching for years as well, for the last 12 years, but I really wanted to get back into practice. So when it came time, shortly after the pandemic, I decided to really focus on things that were helping people to get well, because we saw the impact of illness with the COVID virus on people. And I really wanted to get to the root cause of why did people get so sick and how do we prevent that from happening in the first place, and did a real deep dive into functional medicine, integrative medicine. And there were things there that I had no idea existed. It felt like I went into medicine all over again for the second time. And this time it just feels so much better. And I've seen so much more success with helping people get better. It's so much more rewarding, unfortunately. I mean, neurocritical care it's a tough field to be in. But I feel like what we're doing in regenerative and functional medicine is really changing the landscape, so people don't get to need, or they don't need neurocritical care. So very excited about this field.
We just actually got our second text. The first one was congratulating us bringing a show on functional medicine. But the other one is this is also from Philadelphia. Uh, this is from Hank. He wants to know, does your clinic do hormone replacement?
Yes.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Do you do the pellets also?
I do. I'm pretty agnostic. I like the pellets because they're easier to, for everybody involved. But if people want creams, injections, patches, pills, we do all of that stuff, the bioidentical hormone therapy.
Well, we've got a very large women's audience, and there's a space that we don't talk a lot about is sexual wellness. Why do you think this is such a taboo on such an important topic?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like we talk about everything these days. Like there's no
Yes.
topic off the table except when it comes to sexual health, especially in women over 40, right? And even my son would say, he says things to me like, I'm too old to date. And you're like, wait a minute. That's, so there's that kind of like perception that once you hit a certain age or you hit menopause, that sexual wellness shouldn't be an issue anymore. You just kind of don't worry about it. But it is important because it is tied to your physical health. Your sexual health and physical health are, very interlinked. And also your mental well-being, the relationships that you have. But when you experience things like dryness or pain during sex, that really affects your relationship with your partner. And it affects how you feel.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
what's so important about
Yeah.
a show like this, because a lot of women are too afraid to ask.
Right. Yeah, I just did a retreat with a bunch of women, and there were only like 10 of us in the room. And when I brought up sexual health, I mean, they were giggling in the room, like because it was embarrassing to talk about it. It was just us girls.
Does that still surprise you?
Yes and no. I guess at some level, you feel like you get to an age where you're like, we can talk about this and have a proper conversation, and we don't have to giggle or make jokes about it. But it still happens on a regular basis.
Can you talk about what happens to a woman's body, um, especially during perimenopause or menopause?
Yeah, so as women start to approach menopause in your 40s, in the perimenopausal period and postmenopausal, your estrogen begins to decline, and sometimes it can be pretty dramatic for some women. But you need the estrogen. The estrogen plays a huge role in maintaining vaginal tissue, as well as testosterone. I don't think women realize how important testosterone is to vaginal health, because it, in combination with estrogen, really supports that lubrication, the elasticity of the vaginal canal, and even the microbiome. So the vaginal canal has its own microbiome, and as you lose those hormones, that shifts and changes, and so you can get itchy, and a lot of dryness, pain with sex, burning during urination, and that all comes from the loss of those two hormones in particular.
And it also affects your mood too, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's especially the loss of testosterone. I had that happen to me a couple years ago, where it was just I felt really apathetic. I didn't really care about anything, and it just came out of nowhere. So when I started doing the testosterone replacement in conjunction with estrogen, my mood changed significantly. We actually take a lot of perimenopausal women off antidepressants because that's typically what they get when they go in at that age with mood changes. But once they start testosterone, a lot of them don't need that anymore.
I was shocked when I heard how young people can be with low testosterone. I always thought that was you had to be much older.
Yeah, and we see that in men and women a lot. The low testosterone. I just had a guy come in. His testosterone was in the 80s, which is really really low. Like we like to see that level up at 1,000 for men. And the question is always why. Like why is this happening? And we believe a lot of it is environmental exposure to your toxins, your parabens, your phthalates. All these different things that our body has to deal with. It depletes that hormone levels significantly.
Uh, Trish on Center City Road or Drive wants to know. I totally understand about aging and menopause. Thank God for this show. I'm curious, how do you treat a patient that is having mood swings and also not being able to fall asleep at night?
Yeah, so a lot of that comes down to the changes in hormone because progesterone, men and women have receptors for estrogen and progesterone. Obviously, women have more for those two hormones, but progesterone is a hormone with receptors in the brain. And that's the hormone that really helps you to fall asleep. And estrogen is the hormone that helps you to stay asleep. So progesterone really regulates cortisol. And I always tell women, because they'll say, oh, I'm really agitated or irritated or things set me off. Or, there's kind of that stereotype of the menopause woman who's a bitch, right? Right. But a lot of that comes from just cortisol being unregulated, and progesterone regulates cortisol. So when you start to lose progesterone, the cortisol doesn't have anything to kind of tamper it. And it can be harder to calm down. It can be harder to fall asleep. So when we start women on progesterone, especially at nighttime, most of them start to feel the effects of that. There's some people who have a paradoxical effect to progesterone, but most of the women do very well with that. And then when you add the estrogen, they don't wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning. They actually sleep through the night, which is a really, really nice thing.
So you brought up cortisol. Someone just wrote in, does low cortisol keep you from losing weight?
Well, high cortisol definitely keeps you from losing weight. There's two things that can cause you, two hormones specifically that can cause you to gain weight. And I can literally make you gain weight giving you these two hormones. And one of them is cortisol, which, any steroid like that. So your prednisone, if you're on prednisone for different disease states, you gain weight. And insulin is the other one. When diabetics start on exogenous insulin, they gain weight out of nowhere. They'll just start gaining weight. And cortisol actually regulates insulin. So, it'll stimulate insulin to start releasing. And once insulin starts releasing, everything you eat, insulin starts grabbing it and sticking it. It's got to stick it somewhere. So it puts it in fat tissue. And then it just becomes this cycle.
I'm going to tell people how important it is to go to a wellness center like yours. There are so many people out there who don't understand hormone replacement, or they've heard things like it's not safe. And it's quite one of the things I think about is if someone goes into a GNC and goes, can you give me something to lose weight? And they hand them a pill when we all know everybody's body is different. Yeah. And how could there be one pill that fits all?
Yeah, no, there's not one pill that fits all, but I mean, a lot of the weight, because you see it happen to people as they hit menopause. It's like you didn't do anything different, but all of a sudden you have 20, 30 pounds extra. And that happened to me. I woke up, it feels like I woke up one day and I was 50 pounds heavier. And nothing in my life changed except for the loss of hormones.
It's amazing. So talk about, Katie, talk about hormone replacement, because I know there's people out there who maybe heard it wasn't safe. And there's just so many misnomers out there about hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah, I mean, hormone replacement therapy has been around for the last 100 years. We've been using it for a very long time. There's a lot of studies out there, and even in ancient times, it's kind of gross, but if you got to menopause, right, like historically, most women didn't make it past menopause in ancient times, but if they did, what they would do is drink the urine of young maidens because there's estrogen metabolites in urine. So that has been a way that over the centuries, people have replaced estrogen. Now we don't have to, it doesn't have to be that disgusting. You can get, cream.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God for that. But, even the pellets have been around for almost 100 years, and we have been using them. So the fear for hormone therapy really came with the Women's Initiative study that happened in the early 2000s. And one of the things that happened was in the progesterone, and this was synthetic progesterone. So synthetic progesterone means that that's what one of the pharmaceutical agencies made, right? So they, in order to patent a hormone, they have to alter it. And I'm a big believer in the body knows what to do. It just needs the resources to do it. So you want to do everything as much as possible with bioidentical. So if I give you progesterone, that type of progesterone, the body can't tell the difference between whether I give it to you or if it made it itself, right? But if you take an altered medication, so it has an additional molecule attached to it so it can be patented, that changes how it interacts in the body. So during the Women's Health Initiative, one of the progestin, so progesterone is the bioidentical, progestin is the synthetic. So they used all progestins in those studies. There was one arm where the progestin had one additional case of breast cancer that was associated with it, but it was non-significant. And it was at that point that the study, the authors of the study decided to halt it. It was kind of an overreaction. And 20 years later, they've actually publicly apologized for that study because there were a lot of political things going on with the study. The authors of that study didn't like hormones. They were biased against them, but they threw all the hormones out. So it's, you have one non-significant additional case of breast cancer in an arm. And so they throw everything out, but somehow that became an estrogen issue. So, I mean, estrogen is, you want to have estrogen. If estrogen was the cause of cancer, then 20-year-olds would get cancer, right? You don't get cancer until you lose your estrogen, then you start getting breast cancer. It's the same with prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is associated with low testosterone. It's never, ever been associated with high testosterone.
I have to tell you, I had a friend of mine, I want just kind of going back to the pellet, actually had the pellet done, had it inserted, very painless. It was, he thought it was going to be a lot of pain, but he said the first thing I noticed was my energy level was off the charts. And do you hear the same thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love it. I hate to say I love it when guys come in with low testosterone because, there's other issues going on, but I'm like, this is a huge win. They're going to think I'm amazing.
Yes, exactly. But I want people to know that, especially if you are low on energy, that this is probably, and they last for about 3 to 6 months. Is
for
that
men,
correct?
they'll last for 6 months. For women, the pellets last about 3 to 4 months, depending on how active. Because when you put them under the skin, your blood capillaries will wrap around the pellets, and then the rate of dissolving is based on your cardiac output. So if you're running a marathon every weekend, you'll probably run through those pellets within 3 months. If you're more kind of sedentary, they might last 4 and even up to 5 months.
Katie, I hope this isn't a dumb question, but is there a difference between bioidentical hormone replacement and traditional hormone therapy?
Yes. So the traditional hormone therapy, so if you go to your, let's say you go to your GYN and say you want hormone therapy, they will give you a synthetic estrogen, and that like a cream, and they'll have you put that, you can apply that to the vagina or inside the vagina. But the pharmaceutical grade hormones, again, that goes back to, in order to patent estrogen and progesterone, they have to alter it. So when they alter the medication, the hormone, it changes the structure of it and it changes what it does in the body, right? So in order to get patented, you have to either alter or block a pathway inside the body to produce a result. That's how all drugs get patented. So what are they altering or blocking? When they add an additional molecule to that hormone structure. And that's always been the concern with hormone replacement therapy. So when you use bioidentical, we use a yam plant that has the same chemical hormone structure as human hormones. And those get, so they take that chemical structure, which is bioidentical to the hormone structure in the body, and that's how they make the medication. And there's no alteration of that chemical structure.
And God, I've got so many questions and not a lot of time, but I want to, on vaginal rejuvenation, I know it sounds like luxury, but you say it's a medical solution. What does this involve and how does it help women?
So vaginal rejuvenation. So let's say you do have breast cancer and or you're opposed to hormone therapy, you just can't take it, or whatever the case may be. Vaginal rejuvenation, it refers to some non-surgical treatments that you can do to restore vaginal tissue health, but not just vaginal tissue. It also helps with urinary incontinence. So we use radio frequency devices like a FormaV or a Morpheus 8V, and that uses heat to stimulate collagen tissue, kind of like what women do on their face all the time. So it's the same concept in the vagina. It'll improve blood flow. It really enhances moisture and elasticity, which is really important. And it will help tighten the canal, which is important because when the canal, the vaginal canal is pulled more straight, the bladder sits up more upright so that it doesn't leak. So that can be it can be a treatment for urinary incontinence. Because interestingly enough, there's a statistic out there that says adults buy more diapers for themselves than we do for babies at this point. And that's because there's absolutely no treatment options other than surgery or wear a diaper. So this is changing the field of that.
Katie, it's amazing. I'm looking at the texts that are coming in. We have a lot of people who are listening on iHeart, Spotify right now. And I got to tell you, most of these are women thanking for a show like this. And I'm sorry it's not longer. Katie's going to be with us each month. And I've got so many more questions that I'm going to have to save for next time. Tell people how they can reach your clinic.
So Philly Wellness Center, you can call us at 215-709-9710, or at Philly Wellness Center is our handle for everything. So.
And do you have other social media too?
So we're on Instagram and Facebook and a little bit on TikTok. I still haven't quite figured that channel out though.
Hey, we don't even know if it's going to be around much longer.
Exactly.
Real quickly, we never make this show political, but apparently at 9 o'clock this morning, President Trump is going to sign a executive order that will bring the cost of medication down 30 to 80%. But the most important thing that I think people should know is we rely a lot on China for them manufacturing drugs, and hopefully this will bring some more of the manufacturing back here to the United States than having to rely on China. Is it the same way with supplements, Katie?
So we try to get US-based supplements and peptides. So we do work with a lot of peptides, just because we want the third party. I want to know where they come from, when you're putting something sterile in the body, you need to know where
Yes.
you've gotten the stuff from and how it's been processed.
I want to get one more question in. Do you do the skinny injection?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I use it myself. I lost 50 pounds with it.
Good for you. I'm actually on it myself too. I'm on Ozempic, and I love it. I've had no complications from it whatsoever. Katie, let's give your phone number out one more time before we go.
It's 215-709-9710.
I am so glad we have you. It's just, I told you, it goes by really fast.
It does.
There's so much. Oh my God, I've got so many more questions. The nice thing is when people are saying the show's not long enough or wanting more shows, that means we've done our job. Katie,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am so glad you were with us.
Thank you, Steve.
And we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.